Huge breaking news from the Indianapolis Colts, Adam. Here we go. Going back. Going back to Anthony Richardson heading into this weekend. It looks like, I don't know, maybe it's for the rest of the season. That's what they said about Joe Flacco though. And here we are. Anthony Richardson will return to the starting role after spending the past 2 weeks backing up Joe Flacco per Adam Schefter. Richardson will now here it is. Richardson will now be the Colts starter for the rest of the season per head coach Shane Steichen. There we go. He's
Yeah,
back.
just crazy because they keep
Insane.
flip-flopping here. And as Monday, Steichen said, yeah, Flacco's going to be the guy. And then all of a sudden, a couple days later, back to Richardson. And we talked about it at the time they made this decision. It made no sense to make this change unless you felt we're going to make the playoffs and make a run. And it was obvious the best case scenario was maybe they make the playoffs and lose in round one. And what is the point of that when you need to give Richardson all the opportunity to see if he's the guy? You drafted him early, and last year we only saw 4 games from him. He didn't finish 2 of those games. He didn't start a lot in college. He needs to play. You need to find out if he can get it done. And we saw great flashes last year. This year it hasn't been as good. The completion
Yep.
percentage isn't there. He's missing a lot of receivers. He can throw a solid deep ball, but it has been very inconsistent. But it made no sense to go to Flacco. And we saw Flacco wasn't good. Yes, he moved. What he did was the offense moved the ball better. And fantasy wise, we felt better about starting Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell last week. We just haven't seen that with Richardson. But either way, from a team perspective, the Colts should have never made this change. And just after 2 games with Flacco at quarterback, they make the switch.
And what's it's not concerning, but that's the only thing that can come to mind is that what is going on with the Colts when 2 days ago they had already told us that it would be Joe Flacco cuz we talked about it, that's a reason why we didn't mention him on any waivers. We didn't say anything about him. We said, "Okay, go and pick up some of these wide receivers," which we can talk about here in a second, but 2 days ago they had already said that Joe Flacco was starting for week 11. And so now it's a total turnaround for Shane Steichen, again announcing that Anthony Richardson is actually going to be the starter, not just on Sunday, but for the rest of the season. Joe Flacco back to the bench for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah.
So Steichen said it's about the strides Richardson has taken in the meeting rooms, weight room practices, and such over the past 2 weeks. Okay, sure.
Okay.
Thanks. We
Sure.
we believe that. you
Well,
so
and
yeah.
the
So
other,
even if
yeah,
all those occurred and Flacco is great, you still would have made the change because of those strides? Come on. They think like we're
it's mind
stupid.
blowing. I know, I know. It's actually mind blowing. And the thing was, I think you and I were on the same page though with, okay, hey, he needs to get out of the spotlight for a second. We need to give him a breather. If they were going to do that for 1 or 2 games, fine. But to come out and say, I feel like they also said that Joe Flacco was going to start the rest of the season. Did I make that up, or did they had they said that?
I believe that as well, or something close to that extent.
Close to it. So it's just, I mean, and we agreed with that one, but to not be able to give Anthony Richardson time to develop and see, the thing is that they need to see what they have in Richardson. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's bad. They're not going to win. But this team, again, I'll say it again, they were not going to go into the playoffs and win. They were not going to make a Super Bowl run. So to if you had another team, sure, and you said, okay, actually, we have a chance to go into the playoffs, shake some things up, and potentially go farther than we expected. But they weren't going to do that with this team. So now you've got Anthony Richardson back. You're going to learn if you're going to stick with him. That's what you have to do. I already said it, when you buy a ticket to that ride, when you draft a rookie quarterback, you have to learn and see how he's going to develop and if you're going to build around him for the future. So that's what they need to do with him. So they're back doing that. I guess the ultimate question, fantasy football wise, is we can start with the wide receivers. Is this one where it was a conversation we had every single week with him? Are we downgrading everyone because he is back?
I think you have to, based on what we've seen so far, right? I mean, he did have seem like a pretty good rapport with Josh Downs. We have to see if Michael Pittman is going to play. Look, Pittman, with him being out, we saw A.D. Mitchell on the field a lot and getting open. But we did see times this year Mitchell open with Richardson and he would miss him. So yeah, I think you do have to downgrade him based on what we've seen, and you have to hope that this sparks Richardson, this little 2 game absence, that he gets better. We saw really good signs last year. We really haven't seen it this year. There was a couple of times. The Steelers game was interesting because he got off to a
Yes.
really good start in the first quarter and then got injured. He was 3 or 4 for 71 yards. They were moving the football against a good Steelers defense, and then that's when he got injured, missed some games, came back, and just wasn't good. Look, 44.4% completion percentage. I mean, that is just insanely bad that you just don't see that in the NFL. So, yes, you have to downgrade him for now. And what you just hope is that we see glimpses of what we saw last year, and then you'll feel better about him. And, Richardson did run the last 2 games as well. He had 45 rushing yards, 56 rushing yards. But, yeah, you have to downgrade these receivers right now.
Yeah, I think I agree with the Josh Downs, right? Because at the end of the day, too, depending on what Michael Pittman Jr. and that injury looks like, but I feel Josh Downs had the best connection with Richardson. And then I think you could still go with AD Mitchell. I mentioned him in the waiver wire, and I don't necessarily, if I had this news, I don't think I would have kept him off that. I still would have said you can go out and get AD Mitchell, but now he has to fall to more of that wide receiver for more of a boom bust type player. But with all these bye weeks coming up, I still feel that he could be a solid option for you or a stash play, especially if the injuries keep happening with Indianapolis. If we see more progress from Anthony Richardson, that could be great for him. So I still want to believe in it, but you do have to just downgrade the expectations a little bit here without Joe.
Well, this is very scary because this week they're facing the Jets. And I don't know if you saw this earlier, but the Jets are working on the fundamentals of tackling this week.
Oh,
That is
good.
big. So if the Jets are actually going to tackle the ball carrier, the Colts should be extremely worried this week. So you got to
What
think
were
twice
they
now.
doing before? Were
They
they
were just
not
watching.
focusing
They
on
were
the
just
fund?
watching.
Okay.
Yeah, they were just watching Kyler Murray run all over them and James Conner catch passes. And yeah, they just were observing. But now they're going to
I
work
need
on the
to
fundamentals of tackling.
I need to look this up. Who said that? No one came out and said that. Please say you're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Who said that? Was it
The
who was
coach?
it? Was it Rogers? Oh,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
my gosh. This is really bad. Wow. Okay, well, I'm glad they're deciding to step that up this week. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, so and they'll be in full pads and it's they're going to have a tackling session too. So, a
Oh,
session on
good.
tackling
Okay.
this week. So, yeah, so the Colts should be
Oh my
worried.
gosh. Oh boy. So here's the Colts. Let me just to finish this off. Here are the Colts' next 4 games. It looks like so they take on the Jets on the road this week. Then they are at home against the Lions. Then they are on the road against the Patriots, and then they are on the road against the Denver Broncos for the next
That
4.
is a tough. Those are some good defenses. I know the Jets have not played
Yeah,
well, but Detroit,
they could turn
Denver, or
it
New
around.
England, yeah,
Yeah,
that's not a
pretty
tough.
tough.
That's not an easy schedule.
But then they get to finish with the Giants and the Jaguars. So
Oh yeah,
there you go.
and that's what 16 and 17.
17-18, unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh
I
yeah,
know. I'm sorry. They get the Titans, but the Titans defense, you don't
yeah,
want to sleep
they've
on
been
them
pretty
going
good.
in.
Yeah.
So they're the December 22nd game, the Colts at home against the Titans. So I believe that's 16, week 16, and then 17 is against the Giants, 18 against the Jaguars. There you go. Here's hoping. Anthony Richardson is back. So going, I went and added him in 2 leagues. Just picked him up because why not? Injuries happen, things happen. Maybe he can get better. But the fantasy upside there with the rushing is what we love to see. So Anthony Richardson will not only be playing in week 11, but he will be their starting quarterback the rest of the way. Crazy how things change so quickly there, Adam.